If you could be any reindeer, what reindeer would you be?
Oh my God.
Prancer.
Dancer.
Dancer.
Man, I was very excited to do this podcast. That answer just went so many different directions. Let's not get into that. Well, let's get into it.
I feel like we've done this question.
We definitely have it.
We've done one where we tried to name all of them, which is what I was doing while she asked that. I was like, how many, which ones are they? Did you and I pick the same one?
Yeah.
Would you said dancer too?
Dancer, yeah.
Oh. Why? Because it sounds cool?
Yeah, and also I don't do Rudolph because he's
basic.
Yeah, he's like basic and he's a small.
He's such a beta. Rudolph is such a beta.
Bro, that's the only one I
know.
know. How do you guys know all these reindeer?
You know
Shamir would actually make a perfect
Dancer
Rudolph.
and Prancer.
There's a song.
You guys are too into this culture.
I feel like Rudolph is really like
for 10
nerdy.
years.
And it'd be perfect for you.
Isn't he the one that
He's
ran
like
over
really
the grandma?
No, Rudolph got...
No.
Oh, wait, Grandma
That
got...
was like all
Rudolph
of
is
them.
like
Who's
the
the
one that
reindeer?
shines the light
I know
for
who Rudolph
Santa.
is, but
They
who's
all
the
did.
reindeer?
They all did. It was like all of them.
It's just...
like,
No. The song is just Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Doesn't-
it's
It's
not
not
It
like
doesn't
this.
specify which one.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
dang.
yeah.
Because
I
I
that's,
didn't
that's the
even know
coolest
that
one.
Christmas song until I met you guys, and I know most.
That's the
Christmas
only one I
songs.
know. Literally.
No.
Yeah.
We sang all of them last year. The songs.
But he doesn't
Those
know
aren't
them.
the reindeer songs.
Oh, the reindeer.
No,
are
not
reindeer
reindeer
songs.
songs, like
Oh.
Christmas songs.
I barely knew them.
Huh.
Jingle bells, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Wait,
the
let's
ones that are
talk
in all
about the
movies.
reindeers while we
Dashing
chose
through
them.
the, what's the one? Dashing through the snow and the one horse open.
That's Jingle bells.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
He barely knows
literally.
them. Okay. So
And Frosty the Snowman.
Which
and-
one? No. Which reindeer did you pick?
I
Frosty
chose.
the
I chose Prancer because hello, me Amber prancing.
I don't know what that means.
Just like
What's Prancer?
If we knew their
Okay.
personalities,
Someone like
it
Francis.
would help.
Yeah.
I feel like
don't know the.
I was choosing it based off of how the names sounded, and Prancer and Dancer, you know, they just seemed.
I just want whichever
feel
one's
like
the meanest.
No one knows the other. They're all the same. Just
The
different names.
meanest?
The
Yeah.
only one that matters is Rudolph.
That's probably
Then
true.
that's-
That's in
Probably
every
true.
context when they're brought up. Everyone's like Rudolph. They never care about the other.
I feel like
ones.
Rudolph is just very PC.
Somebody told me that
Like,
Rudolph was
there's
actually
something
gay.
wrong with him. Like what?
Yeah, he's like smaller.
See,
he
that's
has a
what I'm
weird,
talking
like,
about.
red
No,
nose.
no,
What'd
no.
she say? I didn't hear.
That Rudolph's actually gay.
Like
Why?
who said?
Who?
Like there's.
Wait,
hold on.
he's part of the clique
wait,
though,
wait.
right?
Who invented Rudolph?
Santa.
Did you ever think about that? Like who invented this in the very?
Who invented any of these? There's just like stories that.
That's so
that came
crazy. Who
out?
thought like let me think of this many reindeer? One has a
Okay. Listen.
blinking nose.
This will help. Reindeers and their personalities. Dasher, he loves to go fast, and his skill is sewing. Dancer is completely extroverted, and he likes all kinds of dance. Prancer is a bit vain, though affectionate, and he likes prancing. Vixen is slightly tricky, and he likes magic. Comet is handsome and easygoing, and good with kids. Okay, I went Comet, actually. Cupid
I knew he was
is
gonna say
affectionate
that.
and bringing people together. Donner is loud and likes singing. Amber, that's actually you. Blitzen is fast as a bolt, can electrify others. Rudolph, a little down on himself, nose glows. Shamir.
Nose
Olive.
glows.
Have you ever heard of Olive, the reindeer?
What?
What?
It says Olive admits when
Dang,
she's
you
wrong.
guys don't even know.
Oh, it's a girl.
It's a she.
It's one she admits when she's wrong and good at hide and go seek.
Not Amber.
Well, there you have it. Those are the personalities, and that's
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to an episode of Strange Flavors. My name is Shimmer.
for us.
Oh, my name is Amber.
And special guest on the podcast today we have.
Emma.
Ooh, this is brought to you by Alif Theory. Yes, and you can find us on all social.
Everything okay? Why do you keep doing this? Everything okay?
I'm trying to get in the groove of like the intro. Anyways,
It's been like
let
2
me-
years. You haven't gotten the group.
yes.
He's out of the group now.
I'll
no,
stop
like
looking
you
up.
gotta like ease into it. Hold on, mentally. Okay,
One,
so this
two.
stop. Give me some space, mental
You
space.
have so much space.
You're
He's
talking
being such
over
a
me.
Rudolph right now.
All right, we're on all social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. What is so funny?
The way you look at the camera, you said
Facebook.
Facebook, and you can listen to us on Spotify. Dude, they're not gonna know where to listen to
Okay,
us.
go ahead.
Come
Okay,
on.
go ahead.
All right, Spotify, Amber, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, and like anywhere else you listen to your podcast. You can email us at we're also on YouTube video. That's where you see the video portion. And then email strangeflavorspodcast@gmail.com for like your amazing stories.
Thank you so much, Shimmer, for explaining all of that.
That was
You
beautiful.
guys didn't help me at all. You guys are supposed to be like my
You need to be
backbone
able to
and
do it
support.
regardless of what we're doing. You got
well,
this.
in
No,
the,
but
in the
they
reindeer
can't
world, we're completely against Rudolph. Like, we make fun of him and stuff, and
I'm a guest, so you should accommodate me laughing.
I don't want to be Donner. Sorry.
Why are you thinking
it's
about
such a
this so
Donner
much?
thing to say. Guys, real quick, you see me wearing the sweatshirt. We got the sweatshirts back just for you. So we have a few left that if you didn't get a chance to pre-order it, make sure you order it now before they go out. And we still have a little bit of the Identity Series
I'm wearing
shirts
one.
left.
Wow.
And
Great.
they're
Beautiful.
they're reduced price now, so make sure to get one. So we've been gone for just a minute. I feel like this is every podcast.
Every podcast.
But
We're
no,
back.
seriously, because we were done with my sister's wedding in the last one. That's what happened, right?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
now we just got back from a trip to go attend our friend Saad's wedding in Texas, and that was awesome. And now we're finally done all the wedding stuff.
Don't you guys have one more wedding?
Well, I mean, we're not like
Fully
But
involved.
it's
we're not involved.
So just to
So
show up.
thank
and
God.
like-
All we get to do is show up, eat the food, and then
Yeah.
criticize how bad it was. No, I'm just kidding.
Typical Desi.
There's a big
Desi's fashion.
difference between being involved and just attending.
Yeah,
That's
no, it was a
true.
lot of work, like, planning all the dances and coordinating. And Saad, like, his brothers, they like do this traditional skit and stuff. And like, there was a lot of stuff going on, but it was awesome. There was a Lambo involved. He finally
Saad and Zoha.
Finally impulse on a Lambo.
finally made his Lambo dreams come true.
Amazing.
And this vlog is now out on our second channel, Pono Rono.
Check it out.
Always an amazing editing job by Shimmer.
The
Well,
one
I
that
didn't.
very-
involved
I didn't
that.
edit the entire thing. It was help from Frost too in some scenes. So
Yeah, but
So
It was a good vlog.
you're
I
the
really
you're the
enjoyed it.
you're the conductor
The
of the vlog. So great job. Yeah. So somebody had reached out to us. Actually, it's the Pacord podcast. Pacord
What?
podcast. Yeah. And he wanted to know, you guys should talk about the latest rendition of "Baby It's Cold Outside" by John Legend.
Long Legend.
And how he changed the lyrics to make it more appropriate. I found this topic very interesting, and I think it's polarizing. Yeah, so the holidays are coming up. Wait, I shouldn't say holidays. Christmas is coming up. There's no other holidays. Merry Christmas, everyone. So yeah, this is something. Did you guys get a chance to listen to the rendition?
no,
I did.
I
Do
didn't
you
even
know?
hear about
Do you know
this.
the controversy about that song?
I
No.
don't.
No, did you want to explain it a little?
Yeah, so "Baby It's Cold Outside" is like is an old song. It actually won a Grammy for best song at the time. And what happens in the song is like what in this Me Too era people have discovered is like it's not appropriate because the girl keeps saying no, and the guy keeps saying, "But baby, it's cold outside," right?
Oh, okay.
And then she's like, "What'd you put in my drink?" And he's like, "No, no, no, no." And like it's a back and
Oh my
forth thing,
God.
right? So like she says, "Say what's in the drink," and then the original one, he says, I don't know what he responds to that, but it keeps going back and forth about like how she needs to go home, and he's not letting her. So it's like very rapey.
But
is what
it's
people
also
say.
a Christmas song.
Yeah, like he's saying like don't go home.
Oh,
He's giving
okay.
her reasons not to go.
So in the times it was like cute.
Yeah, like it's always been a traditional
Okay.
song, but like
Okay.
in the Me Too era, it's like, whoa, this is not PC,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
Kelly Clarkson and John Legend like made a rendition of it, which like in some lyrics it's like Kelly Clarkson sings like "I've got to go away," and John Legend responds, "I can call you a ride, like an Uber," right? And then
That's pretty
like she
modernized.
says, "What will my friends think?" And then he says, "I think they should rejoice." And then she says, if I have one more drink," and then he says, "It's your body, it's your choice." Right?
Why
So
did
this
he-
is
Why did
What?
he remake this? I don't get it. What's-
Because the original song is very
okay.
rapey.
actually a lot. There
I
was
get
there was
it.
a lot of
I get it,
uproar
but-
about this. People had a problem with
The rendition or the
I
no,
get
no,
it.
no, about
Okay.
the well. Now there is about this. That's why he's saying it's polarizing, because people are like, "Yo, come on!" Like it was made in that time. Like it's a traditional
like-
song, but people find it disturbing nowadays.
But
So
that's
what do you
what-
guys think?
That's
Do
what
you-
a lot of stuff was like 10 years ago, right? Everyone's pulling up old things here and there. And they're like, oh, look at this, look at that. But if it's like, for instance, this song, right? There's so many other songs that you could be like, okay, like this song needs to be changed, this song needs to be changed, especially like rap, hip hop, stuff like that.
Well, no,
like,
but this is a
but it's
traditional
not like
Christmas
a
song. So like,
Okay,
there's
then
a
choose
few,
not to
there's
play
like
it.
there's like 10 songs that like go on repeat in the holiday
okay, then
season.
choose not to play
And
it.
this
If you
is
really
one of them.
then choose not to play it. Be conscious about it.
I would
Be like,
agree,
okay, we're not
but
gonna play
like
it.
these families, they just play the same song every year. And like
Yeah.
Alicia Keys goes like top 50 every year, like
I
during
know that,
Christmas time.
right.
And I think
Mariah Carey.
How do I say
And even like, you know, like
but like
every celebrity has like made
Yeah.
different versions of these songs.
and then John Legend and Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to make cash, so they're like, okay, what's the best way?
Why
And,
not
like,
make a
Although
new
I think
song?
John Legend and Chrissy Teigen are both very active in like
yeah.
the
So
the
they're, like-
times, and they're very progressive in that way. So
Yeah.
I think that he also had a personal, and he makes songs like that all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you could do
Right.
a lot of things for cash, but he has like a song about school shootings and
Yeah,
police
yeah.
brutality, and he's active in that community. So I think there was a lot of at stake for
and
him.
it's like, hey, these families want to play this song, so let's make a
Yeah.
good version of it.
yeah.
Like I don't
I
see
mean,
anything.
would you want to play this song in your house
I
with your
just-
daughter there, and having this man kind of coercing you to stay there, telling you, and she's saying no, I don't want something, and he continuously pushes
this is
on
what I
her.
wanted.
I
This is
just-
what I wanted.
I
wanted
I
Amber
just
to-
wouldn't play the song. I'd be like, oh wait, this song is kind of sus or weird. I just won't play it. Like, remove it.
I mean, that's perfectly
Ahmed
fine.
actually plays this song all the time. He loves it. He's like, I support.
There's some people
No, I
who,
just
who
think-
really do like the song, like "Baby It's Cold Outside," and there's certain
Right.
parts of it that you can remove and kind of keep the tradition alive without trying to promote the rape culture-ness of it.
Okay.
Look, I think if you look at it in this way, that as the song stands now, right, it does sound a little rapey, okay? But I think that when it comes to art, right, there's a lot of people that agree with the fact that you should take art contextually, because it's made as a way for people to express themselves, and especially express themselves in the time that they're living in. And although this doesn't necessarily reflect like some sort of political movement or something, it was just expressing the holidays, and we don't know the intent, but I think we can't really judge in that way because of the time it was made. And because it's art, I think let it stand. If you don't, I kind of agree with Emma in that way, that if you don't like the song, you should not listen to it. And I like the fact that it's been recreated.
So if you do wanna listen to
because
it,
there
it's
is, yeah, because there's a lot of songs that have been recreated, right? Like you're saying, Mariah Carey,
Ariana Grande, Justin
Bieber, they all
Yeah.
recreate songs to make them more modernized, and then you get to hear your favorite artist singing it. So that's cool and all, but I think that people take it too far sometimes in the way that like it's just like, yo, why this song should be taken away from history and like never played
No.
again. And maybe it does make, I think what your point is, like, would you play this in front of your daughter? I think it depends on, like how that person is going to take it. Again, it's just like contextual, like why would the daughter feel a certain way because she's hearing something that doesn't make sense to her now, and then maybe you could have that conversation like, hey, maybe that wasn't the intent with her. I think it's just about talking about it.
It's the same way like when we used to listen to it when we were younger. It's not like we were like, oh my god, this is what's going on. We'd be like jamming out to the song.
Yeah,
like
like-
But it's
singing.
also a different climate too. Like we kind of grew up with it being like the way that we perceive girls and how we would be able to speak to them is a lot different from when we were growing up to what it is now. So a daughter hearing something like, I ought to say no, 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 sir, and the guy replies, mind if I move closer? Like,
Okay.
I mean,
I
if you're
see what
looking
you're
at,
saying,
I know the song.
But,
I know the song.
but like
it is.
kids are not gonna be like, oh, what are they saying? They listen to the jingle. They listen to stuff like they don't.
it's just like
I'm just
promoting
saying-
this level of like promiscuousness that is blurring the line between just being like sexy and like a guy pushing
Right.
himself a little too hard. I think there's a little blurred line right there
I get
with
that.
the song.
Yeah, I get that, but that's why it's okay. He remade it, or they remade it. Okay, fine. Play the remade song, but don't be like cancel this song. Like this song, no way. Like that's what I don't like. Like,
But
leave
like-
the song.
But I think it's what you said. I think it's okay to not play it at all if you don't want to play it, and if you
Right.
do want to play it, there's a version for
Yeah,
you.
there's a clean. There you go.
And in older times, like what these people are, what the men are doing is like almost considered like that's how gentlemen behave.
Were.
That's what they were taught,
a little
right?
bit more pushy.
And that's like you have to kind of play that way, and the girl is gonna play a
Shy.
certain way back, and like in the times where there's like, people will say nowadays like, oh, chivalry is dead. There's people that find chivalry offensive too. Like, you know, you open a door for a lady and it's just like sometimes they're like, hey, don't do that for me. Like, what do I look like? I can
Somebody
open it for
said that
myself.
to you before?
Not to me, but I've heard it
It's
many
happened,
times before.
Yeah.
And things like that, like, oh, don't open the door for me. I can do it for myself. Like, I'm an independent person, whatever. But like, that person's upbringing might be, oh, I thought I was supposed to do this because it's shown as respecting, you know, the women or whatever, and it's me being a gentleman or whatever. So it all depends on like how you take it, but I think you should consider the time and the context of any situation. You can't just put this blanket over everything in the world and just say like, okay, this is politically incorrect and this is politically correct because of what I'm experiencing or what the society is experiencing right now. Is that fair to say? Mm-hmm. And again, like, you can explain it to somebody who maybe doesn't get it because you know better.
I for sure think that I think that in this situation, John Legend, maybe possibly as a father, thought of it because like he has a 3-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
They have to get to a certain age and maturity to understand that, and I don't think that listening to this song is going to make them go and be coerced by some man. I'm not trying to insinuate that at all.
Right.
I just think that
But there are people that think that. That's why
sure,
it's just like,
sure.
Yeah.
But I do think that what you're around starts to influence how you believe, and maybe slowly from society we're taking away factors that would lead women to believe that it's their role to play into a man coercing, which again might have been more so appropriate in a time that was previous to now.
Okay.
Well, thank you for sending in that question. I think it was an interesting thing to talk about. Let's do one more thing because we want to get to the guest. It's always like PC stuff, but screw it. That's what the time is now. So, all right. There's this thing I saw on Twitter, and a lot of people had a lot of different things to say about it, but this is what it says. I'll just read it as is. It's a picture of this couple, and it says, Keith and Tamika recently married. Tamika is a neurosurgeon and earns $400,000 a year. Keith is a manager at Finish Line and earns $44,000 a year.
My man.
After the wedding that she paid for, Keith moves into Tamika's house. She buys him a new Lexus to replace his old Honda Accord and even pays for a 2-week honeymoon to Jamaica. Keith loves Tamika with all his heart and vice versa, and they are happy together. But all Tamika's family/friends say she is stupid. Since Keith is the man, is there a problem with their financial arrangement? If they're in love, does the money difference make them unequally yoked? I don't know what that is.
What?
Yeah.
Ladies, if you were Tamika, or gentlemen, if you were Keith, could you play that role? All right, people, just go. What do you think?
I don't think there's a problem if they genuinely love each other.
Mm-hmm.
If there's like evidence, like he's like, oh, like I found out she has this much money, what's she doing, blah blah blah, and then he's like, oh, let me marry her.
It's depends.
Then it's an issue.
It depends when they started.
Yeah, if
Would
you
you guys be cool with it if you were the husband in that situation?
I think I've said my opinion like 10 times on this podcast already.
You want to be Keith. You desperately.
No.
Yeah.
No, he would be okay.
I'd be okay.
I
with
would
it.
wanna. I think it'd be okay if it's like an arrangement where she's not paying for everything. It's like I can at least support her and the family, or like a future family.
Okay, so you're cool with her making more. You just want to be able to be the
I
one
want
that
to contribute as well.
pays the bills and all that.
Yeah, like I want to contribute equally.
Oh, contribute equally.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
No,
Okay.
I'll like take care of the kids and like do the housework and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
you want to be the house
contribute
dad.
equally. That's
like
fine.
I'll do that. No, as long as I can, like make.
You
want to
like make vlogs,
make
and-
vlogs at home with my kids
while
and
she's
stuff.
like doing
like making
regular
so much
work.
money. No, like
Okay.
it doesn't matter if she's making more money or whatever, or it might vice versa. It's cool.
Amber.
But
I think the question here is, posed as a financial question. And the way that it was stated was that she paid for the wedding, she replaced his car. I don't think that enough information was given from Keith's perspective about how he was treating her and what she gained from him in a way that she might not have gained otherwise. So, like, he bought her a car, but she bought him a car, but like he also was super respectful of her, loved her, whatever. Maybe did something for her that nobody else had. And I think that...
Wait, where are you getting that information?
I'm saying that this is a financial question,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm having a harder time answering it, because it's not a question about their relationship.
It
It's
just
a
says,
question about
ladies, if
is
you
it
were Tamika-
financial. It says if their financial arrangement makes sense. And to me, I think that when you make money and it goes into the same pool, that is their money. I think that for her, if we're going to focus on the financial aspect of this, I think that she can continue doing her thing and he can do his, and she can assist him with her connections and whatever else to get him elevated and making maybe more money or whatever it is. But I think finances are something that go into a pool that they can then...
Amber, it just says, like, if you were her, would you be okay with making more money and paying for his stuff? Yes or no?
Is he loving me?
Amber, just answer the question.
Yes, he said yes.
Like, yeah, he loves her.
Like, it's and
He
he's great.
loves her.
Yeah,
Look at their picture.
Yeah, like, then yeah.
Yo,
Yeah.
I think the craziest thing is he's still working at Finish Line, like while she's making $400,000 a year.
So that shows that he's like,
why?
He's putting in effort.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
he's not like I'm gonna
doesn't-
freeload.
he
Oh,
doesn't
you think
have
he
to.
shouldn't be?
I mean,
Oh,
like
what?
He's bringing in like
the
the
one
fact that
eighth of
the fact that he
money.
is like kind of like cute. Like he doesn't have to, but he's like.
I don't think it's cute. I think it's not smart. Like, if he has a
Like-
real ambition or something, he'd be like, hey, it's Mika, like, pay for my college maybe? And then maybe pay for me to, like, also be...
I fully believe in that, but like from the outside perspective, right? Like they're like, oh, he's freeloading off of her. He's not doing that.
I don't think so.
He's not freeloading.
You're saying like
off
he's
her.
still getting an income.
He's still getting an
doing
income. Like he
Okay.
can still survive on
And
his
who
own.
said he wanted a car upgrade? Maybe that's just something that she wanted to do for
Amber,
him.
you can't just... You're the one saying
Nah,
that. I think
you're
it's
like-
posed as a financial question, then you make up all these scenarios.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
like-
saying that the reason why I'm having a hard time answering it is because I don't feel like I should speak on somebody's financials.
All right,
Listen, I think-
if you get married and you're like, you and Verizon get married, right? And he's like, yeah, I make 44, and you're out here
Listen to
modeling.
the last podcast to get that inside joke.
Yeah.
You're modeling. You're making like 400K a year.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be okay with that? That was the question,
Amber,
right?
I mean,
I
Amber,
don't-
you're going over something we just talked about.
Like, I,
But
She
she always
didn't answer
repeats
it.
the question. No, she did.
yeah,
She said, yeah.
I don't
she'd be
think
okay
I
with
don't think it would be a problem
Okay, so then
as long as he's supportive, loves like all the things that I need fulfilled
right.
People,
as a person.
I always say this: communication. If the couple is okay, equally, both of them are fine with the situation, then nothing else outside of that matters. If they are comfortable with it and they love each other, boom.
That's
Wow.
literally what I said.
That's it.
I don't feel comfortable speaking on their financials. That's
Doesn't-
literally what I said.
That's not what he said.
Yeah, he's saying that as long as they are fine with it, then nobody else has the right to say anything.
I was
about
asking
it.
you though.
Yeah, like if you were put in that situation, that was a
I
question.
was asking you,
Yeah, when it was
and you were
posed
like,
to me,
if they.
when it was posed to me, it's different because now you're asking me in my personal life.
Right.
What if it's your boy and you think he's like getting played? Or
If it's
something?
my boy, I'm making fun of him the whole time. If this happens to you, it's the end of you.
no, okay, reverse. Like you know,
What do you mean?
like
Like my man's is making 400K and
Yeah.
I'm making 40K.
and then like you're
I'm
like,
quitting my
oh,
job. I love you, honey.
No, you're like your friend is like he has a significant other
Mm-hmm.
and might gold dig him, you know, like
If your friend is the one gold digging,
no,
We're
Or
getting
getting
gold digged
digged.
on. Oh.
get gold digged.
Oh.
yeah,
Like-
I think you look at it this way. If that like my man's working at Finish Line, right? So we don't know anything else about him, his ambitions, his career goals,
Yeah.
right?
But he's probably
So-
hustling. That's
Don't say probably. I'm done with you assuming everything about this couple, okay? Listen,
I'm the one who didn't want to say anything about the couple.
listen. If it's your boy, right?
Yeah.
And you feel like he's being that, you have to look at his girl and be like, okay, is she working at like Hooters or something? And just being like, okay, I can have whatever I want, and then I also get to like, you know, work at this place or whatever. Or is she studying and she's like actually trying to make something of herself and she has real ambitions? Then I don't think it's a gold dig because she is trying to get somewhere. But then again, maybe like she's using him to get to that spot. It's a tough one, dude. You have to look at
But if
And I think that's what this question
but
is.
if they-
like trying to put us in that position.
But if she gold digs and gets,
No, I don't think
to
Ladies,
that's
that
a
if
level,
you were to
you wouldn't be okay with that.
Would you play that role?
Like if they genuinely like each other, but she's still kind of
Could you?
gold digging to like get a degree, get a master's, PhD, do whatever, and she's still like financially more stable afterwards. You would be not okay. with
like
that?
if I think about it, like if that happened to me, where like somebody thinks or I think that somebody's in love with me, and the whole time they're just using my money to like further elevate themselves, and
But-
then it's like, hey, I actually didn't like you, but
Okay.
thank you for the money.
Right. Okay.
I'd be
gotcha.
like, dang, like let me
Oh,
get,
I was saying if they still like
let
you
me
and
get
they
some
did that.
stocks or something in there. Like I invested, but yeah, I mean,
Let me get some stock.
Communication. Okay. Cool. Thank you guys for weighing in on that. I think let's introduce the guest because today's guest is extremely special. There is a lot of stuff going on with the impeachment of Donald Trump right now, so it was a perfect time to bring him in. Our guest is Peter, who is a lawyer. He's an ordained minister, and he is constantly advocating to the inquiry of impeachment for Donald Trump. And he has some extremely interesting stories. We were going on and on with him even after the podcast about some of those stories, but we're really excited for you guys to listen to his lifestyle and all the things that he's went through and his work. So stick around for the end of the podcast because it gets very interesting. So without further ado, here is Peter. All right, what's up, Peter?
Hey, how's
What
it
else
going?
going on? So you just came from the mosque, actually.
I did just come from the mosque.
You came from what's called a Jummah prayer, the Friday prayer. So
I hope you know the mosque that you went to is the same mosque that Obama went to.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
no, he
visited-
didn't. He
he
didn't like
visited
go
there.
there
He visited
For
there.
that.
He visited, yeah.
Yeah.
It sounded like he like prayed there. And
No,
stuff.
He visited there and like spoke there. That was the only mosque he spoke at.
Well, it's really nice. They're working on their school. It's,
Yeah.
knows.
Oh yeah. You didn't.
He
go
knows
there.
about the fundraiser process and all that.
There you go.
I got there a little bit late. I got a good 10-minute lecture, or 10 minutes of the lecture, and then they went into a 15-minute asking everybody for $20, and then 5 minutes of prayer, and then it was done.
It's okay. Some people don't even make it for any of the lecture. So good
Yeah.
job.
Well, the lecture was really nice.
There you go.
Was it weird at all? Or going into like a new experience like that? Or have you been?
No, but it's been a few years
Okay.
since I've been to a mosque, so that was definitely a nice ceremony.
Okay.
Did you notice anything about the diversity there specifically?
I noticed that I was most definitely the only guy there with long blonde hair.
Okay, but definitely not the only white person there.
No. Oh, it was very diverse.
Yeah, that's the Baltimore one. So you have a little bit more diversity from everyone. So the reason we had you come out here on the podcast today is because, frankly, you're a weird dude.
I can agree with that.
But a very interesting person, and I think that you have a lot of perspective to offer because of everything that sort of you've gone through in life and you know that you've put yourself into. So let's just kind of start at the beginning. Who are you, and you know, what do you do?
Well, I was born in Washington, D.C. My father was from England, so I'm the son of an immigrant. My mother's side of the family has been here in the Americas since before the Revolutionary War. Grew up in the Bethesda area. Went to public school. From there, went on to Boston College, and from there, Catholic law school. Became an attorney, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Very concise.
Wow.
Look at that.
So growing up, like, what was the financial situation of your family? Were you kind of more middle class? Were you upper middle class? Were you well off? Like,
I'd say we're upper middle class.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything is a matter of perspective. I lived a relatively comfortable life up until about 3, 4, 5 years ago.
That's the word. When anybody that says I lived a comfortable life, that's the word for rich.
Rich.
So yeah.
It was a very easy life. I'll put it that way. And then about
Yeah.
5 years ago, I tried to launch a little .com. It blew up and lost everything, and I'm starting from scratch. So
Wow.
Okay.
that's
So-
where I am right now.
What was the .com, if you don't mind asking? Or,
Well, it was a little company called the American Awards, and the idea was that you'd be able to nominate people for Mother of the Year, Father of the Year, Brother of the Year, Sister of the Year, write a little story, make a little video, put it up on our site. People would rate the videos, and we'd pick winners each year. And we built, I guess, 3 different prototype versions of the site. Launched, and on the day we launched, we signed a contract with a development company to create the next version, the next iteration of the site. And they insisted that we take down our current one because they'd have it done within a month. And over the course of the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months, very little got done. And it turned out that they basically just took my money and ran with it. So I've been...
And that's something that you invested, like...
That's something that I invested everything in.
Got it.
And so...
Did you kind of have that freedom growing up? Like, I'm just... The first person that like comes to mind is like Donald Trump, when it's like, you know, he had money in his family and he was kind of able to like throw it around here and there, and then eventually something stuck. So like, is that something that you had throughout your life, or is this your own?
To a certain degree. I mean, nowhere in the same vicinity as Donald
Right, yeah,
Trump.
for sure.
But I had a little bit of a trust fund growing up. It wasn't big, but it was enough that I could theoretically get my little business off the ground. And when that didn't work out, nothing.
Yeah. So I mean, we mentioned the blonde hair. You got nice, pretty eyes. You know, born into a fairly comfortable, we'll say, family. So we'll dive into like some of the things that you've experienced throughout your life, but mostly it's interesting that like someone with those characteristics is as open-minded as you, when you could be like, you know, just continuing to live that sort of comfortable life and like
in a privileged
way, right? So you know, you've went through you were trying to be a minister. Are you a registered minister right now?
Yeah, I'm an ordained minister. I almost dropped out of college to go to seminary school.
Mm-hmm. So you had a big religious background.
Well, yes and no. I grew up in a household where my mother is a devout atheist. My father was Church of England, which is like Christianity light. And so we'd go to church on, you know, Christmas Eve, maybe Easter. And that was about it. And that's the only exposure that I had. And then when I went off to college, I went to Boston College, which is a Jesuit school, and was required to take a course in theology. And so I signed up for a year-long course. And over the course of that year, I absolutely fell in love with the idea of God. I didn't know whether God existed or not. I didn't know whether God was real or not. But I knew that I really liked this idea of a divine entity. And at the time, specifically, the Christian or Catholic idea of God, the New Testament idea of God, which was kind and forgiving and good.
Do you still stand with that belief?
I'd say that I've kind of adopted an a la carte approach to spirituality and faith. I haven't... One of the reasons that I didn't end up dropping out and going to seminary school was because I kept on being torn between different branches. I wasn't sure if I wanted to become a Catholic or a Protestant, or if I wanted to go the Jewish route. I wasn't able to pick a religion. I just knew that
you like the idea of spirituality.
I like the idea of spirituality and God, and I wanted that to be part of my life. But going to college, to a Catholic university, during the height of the scandals that went down in Boston back when I was in college, it was pretty tough to reconcile your faith and your idea of God with an institution where, you know, they're kind of covering up pedophilia and sliding priests around from one parish to another, so you don't really have to admit to what you've done wrong. And I had a lot of trouble reconciling the institution and what the institution preached.
And also, like, you kind of live this hippie lifestyle almost. You love the Burning Man stuff, and, you know, you're really into that type of a lifestyle. And I feel like that's not common to be religious and into that. Is that true, or?
I would say it is true. I actually asked on Facebook the other day if any of my friends were Mormon, and I didn't get a single reply to that. And within the Burning Man community, I do know people that are religious. I have one friend in particular who's Christian. He's very proud of it. For me, the Burning Man culture provided a venue in which I could explore spirituality and connection with other people, but it wasn't necessarily about sitting down and going through books and prayer and whatnot. It was more about the human connection.
What is the I guess the short answer of like practicing a Burning Man, like going to a Burning Man?
Like what happens
Yeah.
there? What's the connection that you're talking about?
Well, the connection is when you go to Burning Man or to a Burning Man event, all the people in that community try to live their lives in alignment with these 10 principles. Things like radical acceptance, radical self-expression, gifting. So when you go to a burn, which is one of these, we'll call it a festival for argument's sake, you'll find that it doesn't matter who you are, what background you come from, what race you are, what gender you are. You're going to be accepted and loved by everybody there.
And is that true? Do you see all types of people there?
Oh yeah, you see, it can be. It's not the most diverse community, I will say that, but it doesn't matter what background you come from. You are going to be welcome there.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's not diverse? Just people that.
The Burning Man culture came out of California, the San Francisco area. It was kind of a merging of the hippie culture and the San Jose Silicon Valley culture. Mm-hmm. And it's a predominantly, I want to say a predominantly white community, mm-hmm. but that said, they're actively trying to make it a more diverse community too. Mm-hmm. Bring in new perspectives, new ways of seeing the world.
Wow. Yeah. I thought it was just like a Coachella type thing. Yeah.
That's what I thought it was at first, but then I actually I saw some pictures from it and stuff. There's a lot of people walking around just like fully naked, and like there's
it is a place. The thing that I found really fascinating about the Burning Man culture, and I realized this within about 15 minutes of arriving at my first burn, was that it's a place where freedom exists to an extent that it doesn't exist elsewhere in America. And so, you can walk around naked and nobody's going to stop you. Mm-hmm. You can create art that's incredibly controversial. And with very rare exception, it will be accepted and people will take an interest in it.
I'll tell you that's why there's not like brown people there. If anybody's parents or friends or community saw that this person was at this event and there's like naked people walking around, they'd be like, what you're doing there? Why are you?
Yeah.
I will say the very first burn that I went to, I was just sitting down and all of a sudden this beautiful naked girl walked by right in front of me. And I had this moment where I watched that happen and I just kind of looked around because when I went to my first burn, nobody had explained to me what it was. My friend was just like, hey, you're coming with me to this thing this weekend. Just hop in the car, we get there. And once I got there, I saw that and I'm sitting there thinking, where am I? And then all of a sudden, somebody goes by on their bicycle, but the bicycle is going backwards. The guy's wearing a top hat, and as he goes by, he tips his top hat to me. And I look at this and I think, what is this? And I just kind of, it was almost like the universe gave me an answer and just went, freedom.
Wow.
This sounds like what my parents might describe as like hell on earth or something. Like it's burning hot. It's people walking around, quote unquote, sinning.
Yeah, there's a lot of fire all over the place.
And I mean,
what a comparison.
I'm just saying, it sounds like if I were thinking through my parents, my mom would be like, oh, she would say like, oh.
Frost actually makes an interesting point, which is I've had moments where I'm walking around Black Rock City, and I just see fire in every direction, and it scares the bejesus out of me. Mm-hmm. And I have had that thought, this is weird.
It's a sign.
But at the same time, I've also had moments that are almost indistinguishable from heavenly experiences, and so you get the full spectrum. And that's one of the reasons that I think it's played so much into my own kind of spiritual journey, is that you have
that's called devil's temptation. I'm just kidding. I'm just for the sake of playing devil's advocate. You see that? See what I did there? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's I think why I asked that was because from a religious perspective, it seems like it's hard to wrap your head around what you're seeing as like, you know, like art, for example, right? Some people might see something as beautiful, and some people might be like, you shouldn't be looking at that.
That does happen. There was a regional burn that I went to a couple years ago, and there was he would refer to himself as an artist who thought it would be a great idea to bring a upside down burning cross, fueled by gas, so that it would just, you know, go all day, all night.
Yeah.
And I never actually saw that piece of art myself. And I'm not technically a member of a specific denomination where, you know, this would be offensive to me for religious reasons or racial reasons. The thing that actually did bug me is that my name is Peter, and St. Peter was theoretically burned on an upside down cross. And so to me, to hear that even took place at one of our events was very, very upsetting to me. And we also have members of the community who are African American, and it was very upsetting to them because it is a very racially charged symbol of hatred. And when I've gone to burns, the thing that I found so beautiful about that experience is how much love and acceptance and kindness you find there. So to see a camp pop up that was populated by people from the alt-right who thought that this was a good or funny or cool idea was really disturbing. And I think from their perspective, what they were trying to do was put something out there that was so controversial that this community, which believes in radical acceptance and radical self-expression, would be put in a place where they would have to respond one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, when you say something like, you know, that we have all types of arts that can be controversial and all that, the first thing that I think of is like, what's the limit? And what you're describing is like, okay, not everything is for everybody, and like there's groups there that are going to find some sort of offense and things like that. And maybe because I don't know as much about this, that's why we're asking you and throwing this out there. Maybe I'm speaking out of ignorance in some ways, but it's like that type of environment, you have to be also like ready to accept or whatever in that sense.
That would go against your moral belief or compass.
Yeah.
Because if it's made out to sound so euphoric, like this Burning Man experience is supposed to be this euphoric experience where
it usually is.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm not.
You sure?
Yeah. So it's supposed to be so euphoric, and then you have a situation where, you know, there are these things happening. Is there like a committee or anybody that can come back and speak upon this? And where would those rules derive from?
We do self-organize. The whole community does have a leadership hierarchy. And when something like this happens, people file complaint forms if they're legitimately upset about something, and then a committee will meet and they'll talk. And if it's serious enough, then it's sent out to people out in California, and they discuss it and try to figure out, you know, where is the outer limit of free speech.
Who's in California?
This sounds like the Hunger Games. This committee in California.
Well, the headquarters for the Burning Man organization is kind of in the San Francisco area, I believe, somewhere near there. And that's the only time that I've really seen something at a regional burn that was so controversial that it did become a big issue within the community. I mean, 99% of what you're going to see at a burn is art that is inspiring and inspires feelings of hope and love and forgiveness and being able to let go. Going to these events can be a very cathartic experience. Do
you ever take anything there to burn?
I haven't taken any of my own art to burn per se.
Like ex-girlfriend pictures or...
No. Oh, okay. Well, what we do is we build temples, and in these temples, people leave notes to recently deceased family members. Or when I'm at a Burning Man and they have we build a really big temple out there. I'll walk through that, and you'll see letters that people have left to, the girlfriend that just left them, or the father that just passed away. And walking through the temple and reading all these messages can be a very spiritual experience unto itself. And then you have a moment where you're reading a letter that a guy has written to his recently deceased dog.
So other people
And that's the one that like hits you emotionally, and you burst into tears just talking about, reading this story about a guy and how he would cuddle his puppy, and his puppy passed away, and you just lose it.
Wow.
I'm not gonna lie, that would make me laugh a little bit.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you people leave all sorts of different things there. I've taken multiple letters for friends out to Nevada, to the desert, to put them in the temple. And it's usually had to do with someone passing or getting over a very traumatic experience, such as I had a friend who was raped and almost murdered. And I've taken a couple letters out there for her to help facilitate the process of her letting go of that experience. And you put the letter in the temple, we burn the temple down, and it all goes up in smoke, and you've let go of whatever that thing was.
Yeah, that's a cool concept. I mean, like, you burn it, you let it go, and there's things like that when you have those candle, what's it called, like the paper bag things, and you light it, and then
Oh, the lanterns.
The lantern.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do people do that when like people die, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, so-
start something new as well.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a cool sort of concept.
Do other people get to read these letters?
Yeah, it's well, I mean, here's the thing. If you want to keep it private, you'd put your letter in an envelope and stick it somewhere in the temple, and no one would read it. But a lot of people like to, write something on a piece of poster board or a piece of paper, and you post it where everyone can read it. Because this gives people the opportunity to walk around and understand all the different psychological experiences that the rest of us are having to deal with. Loss, love, the highs, the lows, all of it.
What is these temples made out of?
They're usually made out of wood, since they're
Are you
burned.
asking because of environmental issues or something?
No,
she wants to make
I'm
one.
just genuinely curious on how a temple, how you would make a temple. People can go in it, and then you can burn this.
It's not like a.
huge
It's
thing.
not like a legit like.
I know it's not a like they didn't like build a
Bathrooms.
building. There's no like architecture
Yeah.
that really goes into it. But I'm curious.
It's like,
how it is
Jenga.
made.
I'm serious. You know Jenga?
Yeah.
It's like that. It looks
Yeah,
like that.
it's basically recycled wood from construction projects or things like that. They take the wood, they build a little makeshift temple out of it, and if you look up close, you see 2x4s,
Like how
and
big
it looks.
is it?
Well, the one out of Burning Man might be 30, 40, 50 feet high.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, they build big things, and at regional burns, you might have one that's
And then they burn
10
it?
or they burn it.
That's crazy.
And
It's in the middle of this desert. There's like even the burning. The actual man is like even bigger than that, right?
Yeah, the man is much bigger, and the man is burned on the last Saturday of the Burning Man event. And that's a party. When the man is burning, music is going, people are celebrating, everybody's having a really fun time. And then the next day they burn the temple. And when they burn the temple, that's a very different experience. Everybody is silent. All you hear is just the burning, the crackling of the wood. And then someone may spontaneously just break out into operetta song or scream out something like "I love you," and then other people will echo it all around, and then it goes back to complete silence, and it becomes a very contemplative event.
This sounds like Midsommar, like that movie. Yeah.
There's a movie that sounds like no, but I feel like you either have to be in it or you don't get it at all.
I mean,
That's probably what it is.
Because I feel like right now, I mean, I think people would get mad at us because it seems like we're almost kind of like making fun of it in a way. But like me personally thinking about being there, I wouldn't be able to like take it as seriously because I can't relate to a lot of that, I guess. But
well, I mentioned it being a euphoric place, but I can see people going here and seeing it as a very dysphoric place. It's very uncomfortable for a lot of people to be there. It would take a lot of open-mindedness.
no way. I feel like everyone there is very comfortable.
No, but imagine somebody who
Someone that's
is
taken there.
That's
I
what I'm
think.
saying. Like for somebody who is not used to that environment to be around things just burning.
Like there's like
naked people.
There's like
and
orgy
drugs.
tents, right?
There is something called the orgy dome. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So
Ross, you know a lot about this.
that there.
Yeah, I talked about it before.
There you can have all sorts of experiences out there, but it is not just a place of sin and debauchery.
Yeah,
Right, that's what I'm saying.
For me,
That's what I'm saying. Some people wouldn't be able to get past that.
Right.
No,
To
and
see what you're
Right.
talking about.
exactly. And I have a friend. He's kind of on the conservative side. When he found his way into the Burning Man community, he was super uncomfortable with what he found there. This was a guy who he had trouble hugging other people. So
a lot less than an orgy tent.
Oh no, but yeah, exactly. But over the course of a couple years, he became more comfortable. He kind of let down his guard a little bit. He opened his mind a little bit, and got to a place where he is much more comfortable with human connection. I can pretty much say with certainty, I don't think you'll be seeing him at the orgy tent or the orgy dome.
Oh, I thought that's where the story was going.
No.
Yeah.
I thought that's what you meant by
Years
human
later.
connection.
I'm just saying the guy can hug people now, and that for being a human being inherently can sometimes be a very lonely and cold existence. And so if you're able to go through some sort of transformation, no matter how small, and be able to find a way of connecting with other human beings, that can just be a really transformative experience.
Yeah, I'm sure. Is it? I've heard that amongst your friends, some of them consider you almost like a god. Is that true?
Whoa.
I've had some moments. I did have one friend who actually asked me permission if he could basically picture me at the moment of his death, which was a very nice compliment. Like when he asked me that, I was a little, that's probably the biggest compliment that I think.
Wait, I need an
I know the
explanation.
title of this
What does that
podcast.
mean?
Well, some people, when you're on your deathbed and at that moment, you might imagine Jesus or Buddha. And he asked if he could think of me in that moment. Which,
That's good, bro.
That's
What? Yeah, he
wild.
considers you a god, then, right?
So, well, it's that was a very complimentary experience. And he and I actually each year we go down the Potomac River and we kind of do ourselves a little start of the year baptism, dipping into the ice cold waters together.
You dip each other like.
No. I mean, we both
That's
we
called
both
a
jump
polar
in separately.
plunge, right?
Yeah, we do a polar plunge.
Okay,
but
you made it
it's-
sound a lot more spiritual than that.
Well, for us, it is a very
Okay.
spiritual experience. You climb into the cold water, you dip your head under, and when you come up, you're starting fresh, you're starting clean, but yeah,
Hypothermia.
yes, it's.
I'm just kidding.
When there are chunks of ice coming down the Potomac River, yeah, I'm not kidding. It can get super cold.
Why do you think that that is? Is it because you give off this like energy of like positive? I mean, you are a very positive, energetic person. So is it that's what it is about the?
I don't know. I try to be a very loving, kind person. And there's some people that connect to that. And there are other people that they've met me, they've talked to me, they watch the other way that other people might interact with me, and they call me out. They say, you're completely full of shit. You're trying to be this person or be this thing. And I'm just generally not trying to do anything other than just be a nice person. But for some people, that can be meeting someone that just accepts you and listens to you can be a really big experience.
Well, that's the same sort of traits that a lot of people in the past who have been huge leaders of their communities have gotten the same thing. Where like, oh no, you're like, this is all a front. You're only doing this for power and this and that. I mean, when I think of people like Muhammad Ali or Mahatma Gandhi and like the list goes on, but like all these people, even Jesus and the Prophet, peace be upon him, like anybody that you can think of in history, they all got that sort of same thing.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what you're experiencing, and maybe that's what your friends think, like, okay, yeah, this is definitely like the Messiah.
This is the guy.
I think what it comes down to is all those people that you mentioned, they're all aspiring towards the same thing. They've all had experiences that give them faith, that teach them to be a good person and want to be a good person and to be helpful and a meaningful part of their community. I don't think, they're always, they're the pastors of the mega churches out there that have private jets and are profiting off spirituality. But generally speaking, I think when it comes to religion, it doesn't really matter what religion you're looking at, or whether you're not even looking at religion at all. You're just looking at spirituality. If you are aspiring towards being someone that is good and true and noble and right, people will see that for what it is.
So how good are you at recognizing other people, especially people that are leading other, groups of people, different communities, even cults? How good are you at recognizing their BS, or do you do that?
I try not to judge anyone else in terms of that.
But you never are like, I feel like this is
A scary cult or something.
like when you're
Cult
talking about the
leader.
people with the private jets and all that, right?
Yeah.
Like, that something's up.
I know that something's up if you've got a TV show and you're trying to con elderly people into giving you their retirement savings so that you can live a life of unnecessary luxury.
Like Dr. Oz, or?
You know what?
Ellen?
I don't know anything about Dr. Oz.
Oh. I mean, daytime television people, like it's just retired people that are watching them, and me. 'Cause I work from home.
I mean, I don't want to go into judging anyone
Yeah.
specifically, but
It seems like the Burning Man, like having kindness and all that, it plays I feel like it plays a big role in you, like to be very kind and very accepting of other people around you. Do you ever find that it is harmful to you to be overly accepting, and sometimes people can
Take
screw you over?
advantage.
yeah, I mean that does happen, and I just kind of accept that it's part of life. There was a situation that I was involved in about 6 months ago. I don't want to get into the details of what it was to protect the privacy of the people involved. But in that moment, I saw a situation. I knew I needed to do something. I analyzed the situation. What would I do as a friend in this situation? What should I do as a friend who happens to be an attorney in this situation? I went through this entire ethical calculation in my mind, did what I thought was the right thing, and then I forgot all about it.
Sometimes it's like you gotta work for people that you might not necessarily believe.
agree.
Is that true?
The type of law that I've practiced, that can be true. And as a lawyer, one of the things that we're taught to understand is that everybody's entitled to a legal defense. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you've done. There needs to be people in the world, lawyers, who will argue on your behalf, who can have your back. And we still have to operate within the realm of that which is true. But that said, for me, I'm fortunate in that I haven't had to be the nasty sort of lawyer.
Okay.
But that said, when I began my legal career, I started as an immigration attorney. And one of the things that I very quickly realized is I had clients that were coming to me. And if you were a wealthy client and you could afford to have me on board to take care of your problems, whatever those problems are, great. But if you came from a less financially comfortable background, you might come to me and, I can tell you what my prices are, and I can tell you what the fees are related to an immigration process. And then lo and behold, you get rejected because everybody gets rejected. Or I shouldn't say that, but the numbers are not always in your favor. And the wealthier you are, the easier it can be to stick with the legal process until you get where you want to be. And I was very uncomfortable taking money from people when I knew that chances are I wasn't going to be able to help them. And granted, that was almost a decade ago when I was practicing immigration law. And unfortunately, right now, the situation has gotten much, much worse.
Yeah.
So I definitely could not go back into that because I'd feel guilty about taking people's money for processes that I knew probably would not ultimately work out to their advantage.
Well, so if you had to represent someone that like you don't necessarily, agree with or something, or your moral compass says that like, I don't know about this, would you take it or?
I have to say yes to that, because at the moment I work for corporations.
Yeah.
And the work that I do for those corporations is going through papers, looking for evidence of wrongdoing, sometimes to, protect a corporation, and sometimes to, I don't want to say to help them get away with something, because I might not be proactively helping them to get away with something. But, if I'm looking for a particular piece of evidence and I, pass it up the chain, I know that I'm not necessarily, I'm doing my job properly, but I'm not necessarily helping people in the positive way that I would like to as an attorney. But, you've got to pay your bills, and that's why a lot of people go into corporate law.
Yeah. So I think the one of the most important things that I want to transition to next, and why I had you come on at this time, was the impeachment process of Donald Trump is kind of in full effect.
And
you've got your impeach Trump
impeach.
sweatshirt on.
Yeah.
So where did you sort of get into proactively protesting what this president has been doing?
Well, back in April, I think it was April, when the Mueller report came out, I read that. And as it's a 400-page document. And as an attorney, I found that it was a very fascinating read. It almost read like a spy thriller, that Russia engages in a cyber attack against us. And then we don't know whether that pushed the needle one way or the other, but somehow Donald Trump becomes president. And then after becoming president, time and time and time and time again, he attempts to obstruct the investigation into whatever it is that Russia did that might have helped him out. And from my perspective as an attorney, it appeared that there was a very likely possibility that something possibly criminal, possibly even not treason, but, a little treasonous.
Treasony.
A little treasony might have taken place
Season
here.
of treason.
And I thought that...
Tis the treason.
I didn't know that impeachment was actually necessary per se, but I believed it was the responsibility of Congress to open an impeachment inquiry and look into what happened. Now, based on the Mueller report, I thought there were good grounds in there to impeach. There were 9 different situations in which the president had attempted to obstruct justice or obstruct the investigation into what had happened. And for months, nothing happened. And around Memorial Day, I grew frustrated enough that I started something called the Presidential Impeachment Protest, which was a public awareness campaign designed to educate people about the contents of the Mueller report and the need for opening an impeachment inquiry. And for weeks, I would go in front of the White House and stand out there with signs and do little impeachment dances and whatnot.
Impeachment dances.
I had fun with it. I worked 3 blocks from the White House, so I would go down before work or after work.
You were doing the jug. What's it called? The
poi.
Poi?
Yes.
that?
It's like the balls on the strings that you you do it with fire, right?
Yeah,
Usually,
I do it with fire as well. But yeah,
So-
it's you have a couple balls that hang on ropes and you spin them around your body.
A little bit of Burning Man experience.
I brought a little bit of the Burning Man experience to in front of the White House.
He was ready to jump on one of those high unicycles naked and protest in that way. You were all in.
Well, I had a hoverboard. I can't do the unicycle thing, but no, I was having fun with it. This would be a way for me to get a little bit of exercise before work, and to exercise out some of the frustration that I had as an attorney with something that I thought was really disturbing. And then sometime around September, still nothing had happened for months, and I decided the news broke that there had been a suppressed whistleblower report that had not made its way to Congress. It had been filed, had to do with the president, had to do with some phone call with Ukraine, but we didn't know exactly what was in this report because the White House had suppressed it. So I wrote a letter the co-founder of the group and I signed this letter together, and then I went down to Congress and by hand passed out this letter in the House of Representatives to each and every office. And it was a 16-mile journry through the halls of Congress. I had it on my Fitbit, so I was actually tracking how many calories I was burning.
That's so fire.
But it's really, you don't understand how big the Congress is until you actually do one of these lit distributions. And so as I was walking around passing out this letter wearing my presidential impeachment protest shirt, I was watching in the lobby of each office the news start to change, and I was about somewhere between a third to halfway through my distribution when I walked into one of the lobby of a congressperson, and I look up at the news screen, and I'm passing the letter to the woman that's working at the front desk, and she looks up at the screen and she looks at me with my presidential impeachment protest shirt and looks at the letter, and I just kind of look back at her, and we have this moment, and I just go, well, I'm definitely going to remember that moment in time, and then walked right back out and kept going.
Wow.
And then,
what was that like? Was she like, oh, it's happening?
Yeah, basically Nancy Pelosi came out and said, based on this Ukraine situation, we are going to actually open up a formal impeachment inquiry. And for 4 or 5 weeks after that, the Republicans were complaining because they were saying that if you were going to have an impeachment inquiry, we had to have a vote on it by the full House. So on October 31st, there was a bill, House Resolution 660, that basically formalized the rules of the impeachment inquiry. Now, to be clear, under the actual rules of the House, this full vote was not necessary per se, but it was a formality that basically said, look, this impeachment inquiry is happening. It is legitimate. We are going forward with it. And on that day, it was October 31st that they were going to be voting on this. I was dressed up as an angel for Halloween, and I had grown this pumpkin. It's the variety is called I think a Atlantic Giant or Giant Atlantic. It's the biggest type of pumpkin in the world. I'd grown it in my front yard. And I live out kind of on the edge of suburbia where nobody would see this pumpkin. And I had carved into its face the words "impeach Trump," and I knew that nobody.
How
would
big is this pumpkin?
Probably like this big.
Okay, so like
a yard or
it's
2.5 feet, 2 feet.
2 feet.
Yeah, it was bigger than any pumpkin I've ever bought, ever grown, ever. I mean, real
It's a
heavy.
big pumpkin.
And I took it down to the White House, and
You took the pumpkin there?
I took the pumpkin there.
Trick or treat.
Dressed as Jesus.
So now you're not
perfect.
the angel anymore.
Well, I was dressed as
The
an
Jesus
angel. We'll say a Jesus angel. I had a little halo. I had some robes. I had a rainbow scarf going on.
And your friend was probably like, it was true the whole time. It was Jesus is back. He's back.
The thing that was really funny about this was, I walked up in front of the White House, and there's a little tent in front of the White House called the White House Peace Vigil. It's run by some veterans. They've been there for almost 40 years in a constant protest of war. And they agreed to essentially operate as the guardians of my pumpkin and guard over my pumpkin on Halloween night.
Wow.
So if you walked past the White House on Halloween night this year, I did not see a pumpkin carved by Donald Trump, but my pumpkin was sitting right outside 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue within line of sight of his bedroom window. So that felt really good. But this happens to be the day that they were going to be voting on House Resolution 660. So I reached into my backpack, and I happened to have an Infinity Gauntlet, like from the Avengers movies. So I put it.
Wait, hold on. I don't watch these movies. What is it?
It's the thing that Thanos wears.
It's a
with the
giant
rings.
glove. It's a giant glove.
It's a giant glove. It's the most powerful weapon in the universe. And when you snap it, you can basically, with the power of your will, do anything you want with reality.
And you had this in your backpack.
I had this in my backpack.
Okay.
I put it on my hand. I put the pumpkin in front of the White House. I looked into the camera.
Oh my god.
I talked about House Resolution 660 and how they were voting on it right then. I snapped my fingers, and right after we complete the shot, somebody hollers out, "Hey, House Resolution 660 just passed.
Wow.
And I sit there and I look at the
Bro.
glove and I kind of look down and I have one of those moments that was just like a little too perfect.
Give me $1 billion.
Yeah. No, I gotta try that. Yeah, I'll try that
World
tonight. We'll see what
peace.
happens.
I was not ready for that at all. I did not think that that's what. You're a great storyteller, by the way.
Thank you. But yeah, no, that was a really fun moment. And then as I was walking from that moment back to
Nobody's curious why this man had that in his bag. Just me.
I mean, after what happened after.
I'm not like
questioning
curious
it.
about anything that Peter does. I'm just like, yeah, it's true.
Okay.
I got a lot of fun things in my bag. There was also a day where I went down in front of the White House dressed as Thor, had his hammer in
that's
one
good.
hand and held up a sign that said "Trump is unworthy, impeach."
Wow.
So I mean, I've really been having fun.
Wait,
with
so like,
this.
does it ever bother you that like you actually have read the entire Mueller report? Like, people don't usually do this, and like you are educated in all of this, you know your stuff, and like people kind of see you, and even if you don't have a Infinity Gauntlet or dressed up as Thor or Jesus or whatever, they still kind of see you as like, oh, this guy. Like, I've read comments on your Facebook that like, well, not on yours, but like that has been shared, and it'll be like, oh,
guy's
like this
crazy or
guy has no
something?
job, like he's just some hippie that's doing this, like all the other ones. Does it ever bother you that like people don't take it seriously?
Even
No,
though like
I'm-
you are actually well qualified to speak about it.
Overly qualified.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: if I got a job working for the Justice Committee or something like that, then I would behave accordingly. But since I'm not working in the halls of Congress and I'm just doing this as a private citizen, I'm gonna have some fun with it.
No, but I know like that for you, but I'm saying for other people, like not believing you, does that bother you? Like when you're walking around Congress, like did you get any
With
looks
the
or anything?
impeacher, like
who
are
are
they
you
taking
to be?
you seriously?
No, I haven't felt much in the way of judgment. There will be times that people will see me wearing one of my shirts and they'll come up and they'll ask me questions. We have a very civil conversation about it. There have been a couple occasions on which someone has come up to me and given me a piece of their mind and then walked off before I had
And what
a
do you
chance
do
to
when
give a
that
response.
happens?
I let them do it. Everybody has very strong feelings about this stuff, and
Excuse me.
as an attorney, I do feel that impeachment is something that is very much called for in this situation.
Is it just because of what you've read and like you think that this is unjust, or is there anything else about this president that bothers you? Otherwise, do you think that like he's what kind of a job do you think that he's doing?
Oh, I think he's doing a horrible job. I think his entire administration has been a complete disaster. The only reason that some people do have positive feelings about it, and this is just my humble opinion, is because the economy's steaming along pretty well right now, and that really kind of shapes people's perception of things.
And is that to his credit, or do you believe otherwise?
I don't think that's necessary.
It was set up for him, maybe.
I think the American economy has been doing pretty well the past few decades, and how much of that is attributed to the current president or even the past president, I'm not sure. I mean, you get a company that comes along like Google, and that can transform everything. You get a company like Amazon; they can transform the delivery of goods in ways that the United States government is not necessarily behind these corporate successes.
That's a really great point. I think that usually when we think about the economy, the first thing that everyone kind of points to is like, well,
president.
look at the president.
Yeah, and that's basically how we're trained to think. But from my perspective, the president has, and I'm disappointed to say this. I don't want to say this, but I think he's been a disappointment. From my perspective. Now, that's not to say that things couldn't change like that. That's not to say that, that tomorrow could be different. But I think he has done a lot to inject hatred and racism and fear into the American consciousness.
Yeah.
And the thing that really troubles me, and this is not so much criticism of him, but kind of looking at the bigger picture, I see a situation in which Russia did do something to interfere with our 2016 election. We still don't know exactly the full extent of what they did or how they did it. But from my perspective, we kind of know two things. Number one, they were hacking into various election offices all around the country. And number two, they were purchasing a lot of advertising on social media.
Like Facebook and stuff?
Like Facebook, like Twitter. So if you're a Facebook user and you're just kind of scrolling through things, all of a sudden you're going to start seeing a whole bunch of images that the Russians or Russian intelligence have put into your feed. So it's not even necessarily that they had to change any votes. They can change what you're seeing, what you're reading, what you're perceiving, and by doing that, manipulate your behavior. So my concern is that even if Putin didn't necessarily, put Trump into office thinking that he could manipulate Trump or control Trump in one way or another, I am deeply, deeply concerned that with Trump in power, there's a phrase, useful idiot. And what this phrase means is it's when a person is not necessarily a traitor or they consciously choose to betray their country, but where you can manipulate them just enough to do what you want them to do. And what really bothers me is that if Putin did help to get Trump into office and has been kind of having closed conversations with him, I don't know where the American president ends and the control of the Russian president begins. And as an American citizen, that is very, very disturbing to me, because over the course of the past century, we've engaged in all sorts of different wars: World War I, World War II, Vietnam, all that. And it was very, when a country would attack you, you'd know it. There would be bodies. You could see the evidence of that attack. But a cyber attack is a very different thing. It can be subtle. And if Russia was to engage in a cyber attack or cyber warfare on us, that's still warfare. And the fact that there aren't any bodies doesn't mean that the Russians aren't doing it. And what bothers me here is that I'm really... I don't know if Putin is currently pulling strings or if he's just messing with all our heads for his own amusement and to make America look foolish. And regardless of which of these two things it is, or maybe there's a third option, but to me it appears to be either Putin is pulling strings or Putin's having some fun using an entirely new form of warfare that's not about killing people. It's about basically hacking our minds.
Yeah.
And we still don't know the full extent of what's going on here.
Yeah. So can you sort of do your job and educate as many people that are listening to us as possible, and kind of let us know what going forward we should look for in the next presidential candidate? Like, is there anybody that you would like to personally endorse or that you kind of think is on the right ball?
I don't want to endorse anyone at this time. I will say this: I would not be endorsing Donald Trump for re-election. I can say that quite clearly.
Really,
it's like he changes his whole merch company to re-elect.
Well, there was a moment where I thought about taking the after the impeachment inquiry was formally started, the thing that we had been protesting for months, we no longer had a need to protest for it. So now we have these shirts that say presidential impeachment protest, but when we were wearing them, people would come up to us and say, "Hey, are you protesting the impeachment?" And we realized, this branding doesn't work anymore. So we renamed ourselves Americans for Impeachment, but we still have those presidential impeachment protest designs. And I was thinking about trying to sell those to people that, want to protest the impeachment, but
Make some money.
Oh my God.
We're not going to go that route.
Okay, so what to look for in the future candidates?
I would say look for someone My big concerns, at least within the Democratic Party, is that there seems to be a fight going on between the establishment liberal Democrats that have kind of controlled the party for a long time, and the more progressive wing, the Bernie Sanders, the Elizabeth Warren types. I don't think that conflict is necessary. I think that conflict within the Democratic Party is causing... I think it's creating a situation where we're fighting among ourselves so much that the other side is winning because we're distracted by our own conflict. Now, I'd say going forward into 2020 in the election, if I was going to endorse one party over the other at the moment, it would be the Democrats. But as to which candidate is best, I think we need to wait and see and let the candidates figure that out for themselves.
It also says you grew up on a street literally paved with gold.
Okay, so this is actually an interesting story. So
I'm just going through the fun stuff now.
Yeah, so that's fine. So I grew up on, I spent my 20s onwards living on Fawcett Road. And across the road from where I live, there was a gold mine. And back during the Civil War, a Civil War soldier went down, and as he was cleaning his pan in the creek, he saw some flecks of gold at the bottom of his pan. So after the war, he came back, started a gold mine there, and as they pulled all the earth out of the ground to build this mine, they used that ground to pave the road that goes down from where I live, MacArthur Boulevard. And I've been told, and I don't know that this is true, this is just what I've been told, that using the gold extraction techniques that are available to us today, if we were to churn up all that earth that had been pulled out of the ground in the making of that gold mine and reprocess it, you could actually turn a profit off the gold that is in the road or in the base of the road.
So if you own that property right there, then nobody can touch it, and you have some gold.
Well, it's a street.
Well, theoretically, but the gold mine shut down because they weren't pulling enough money out of it, or enough gold out of it for it to be profitable at the time.
But there's still the gold.
It's still there, but now it's a national park, so they don't mine in it anymore. Yeah,
got it. That's crazy.
And then when it comes to your lifestyle, a lot of what it says is skydiver, scuba diver,
a lot of diving,
fire spinner. Would you consider yourself an adrenaline junkie?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Back when I was in college, during my freshman year, I joined ROTC, and at the time, I wanted to the career that I had my eyes set on was becoming a James Bond type, going into the military or the intelligence services, learning how to do all the things that James Bonds can do, skydive, scuba dive, and in the course of my ROTC training, there was a day where we were doing drills, and I had to crawl along the ground and flip over a friend's body or corpse to see if it was booby-trapped with a grenade. And as I was rolling his body over, I had this thought go through my head that goes, you know what? I'd happily die for my country, but I think I'd much rather live for it. And just minutes after that thought, I went into the ROTC offices. I pulled out of the program and put my heads back into the books.
Wow.
But that's kind of what got me started going down that path. And even though I didn't end up, going on and becoming a professional killer, I still taught myself how to fly a plane and jump out of it and all that jazz. And so it's been a fun life.
Yeah.
You are one interesting individual.
Thank you.
To bring it full circle, I mean, you have all of these interesting ambitions, and you have so much in your life that I feel like you're still experimenting in and all that. Looking the way you do, I feel like nobody bothers you in the way that if you want to go on about doing this stuff, you can. Why do you care so much about all the work that you're doing in law and trying to bring justice to this country?
I think I have two answers to that. Number one, I had some amazing parents growing up. My mother worked for the State Department. My father was an economist for Congress. I was an active member of the Washington political community for years. And I was kind of indoctrinated to believe that the best way to have a positive impact in the world, to change the world in a positive way, was through government. It was through public service. And I started going down that route. I'm sorry, can you restate the question again?
I was asking you why you care about doing all of the work that you do when you could go on about your life living.
Just like do.
Like, why do you care about, this protest and...
Because you seem like a very empathetic individual.
I am pretty empathetic. The second half of my answer basically comes down to the growing up. I believed in this idea that, at least in America, we had created this country where truth, justice, the American way was a thing. And, if you go to a bank and you take out a loan, and you sign your name to that, you're going to be held to your debts. If you commit a crime and you get caught, you are going to be held to that. If you lie, you might not get in trouble if it's not some sort of legal agreement, but even in that situation, even if you don't have to deal with the law, you're going to have to deal with God or the universe or whatever sort of spiritual ramification might come around for whatever bad thing that you've done.
Karma.
Yeah. And my concern at the moment, and this has been a big concern ever since Donald Trump got elected, was that something's shifted in the American consciousness in the past few years, where we have a president who lies, I think on average, something like 13 times a day. And this is considered a new normal. I mean, he's been caught, I think, over 13,000 times since being sworn in, making misleading statements or lies. And that to me is just really, really, that's just really troubling. And I want, as an attorney, I believed in this idea that, you have the law on your side, and if you don't have the law on your side, you have God on your side. And we currently live in a country where the law is... Some of the lawyers and some of the politicians in D.C. who have sworn oaths on our Constitution are engaging in very questionable behavior. It disappoints me as a citizen. It disappoints me as a spiritual person. It really disappoints me as an attorney. And because of the fact that it disturbs me so much, that's the reason that I've felt a need to step up and draw attention to the things that I think are important. And I think investigating the corruption and the foreign influence, or the potential foreign influence that's going on in the White House, that's a very important thing to me from the perspective of just as a citizen.
Yeah, that's great. What's that meme that's like, I have the power of God and anime on my side? Peter's got God and law on his side. So. Peter, where can people find your merchandise and anything else you want to promote that they should check out? And we'll make sure to link it in the description. So
okay. Well, I would thoroughly encourage people to go to americansforimpeachment.org if they want to find out information about the ongoing impeachment. If you want to support us, we're selling some merchandise at perfectrepublic.com. We have a little t-shirt shop with mugs and bumper stickers and whatnot. But other than that, I think I'd like to use this opportunity to encourage people to call the Capitol Hill switchboard and contact both of your U.S. senators and express your support for the impeachment and the removal and the conviction of President Trump. And the phone number for that switchboard, if you can give me one moment here.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to put that number in the description as well.
So the phone number for the Capitol switchboard is 202-224-3121. And when you call them up, you'll speak to a very nice person. You explain what state you're calling from and that you want to speak to your state's senior senator. They'll connect you to your senator's office. Just express your support for impeachment. When you're done with that phone call, call that number again and ask to speak to your state's junior U.S. senator. And do the same thing. Just say that you support impeachment, removal, and conviction.
That's all you have to do.
That's all you have to do at the moment. Right now, it looks like this morning, the House passed 2 articles of impeachment. They're going to be passed on to the full House, which is going to vote on them next week. And chances are those 2 articles of impeachment are going to pass. After that happens, everybody's going to go home for winter recess. And starting in the new year, the U.S. Senate will be holding a trial, most likely, of President Trump. And at the moment, it's very important that people reach out to their senators and say, look, enough is enough. We're done with the lies. We're done with the corruption. We're done with whatever foreign influence is going on. Real action has to be taken.
Yeah. Well, Peter, thank you for doing that work on the behalf of so many people, especially with the background you have. We appreciate you, and we're really thankful for you coming on this podcast and sharing your entire sort of life story and all the work you've done and your positivity.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We wish you the best going forward. But there's one last question that we ask on the end of every podcast. Mm-hmm. And Shamir, if you want to take that away.
If you could describe yourself as any flavor, what flavor would it be and why?
Ooh. The thing that comes to mind is black raspberry. Homemade black raspberry ice cream is my absolute favorite thing.
Why do you think that describes you?
I don't think it describes me. I think that's what I just like. If you want something that describes me,
your flavor.
Ben & Jerry's Americone Dream.
Wow.
Why?
Go into it.
Oh, it's I mean, it's pretty much just the perfect ice cream, and I realize that Stephen Colbert is the face on that pint of ice cream right now. I'm not saying that I want to replace him, but I'm just saying that it would be highly appropriate.
Well, I think you being the son of an immigrant and having the lifestyle that you've gotten the privilege to, you are living the American dream, and you're getting to do all that. So yeah, I think that's a great answer.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Peter, for coming on this podcast.
Thank you for everybody listening to another episode of Strange Flavors. It's been another week.
Another flavor.
A little less stranger.
We'll talk to you next time.